head-on by an SUV. Wound up in a wheelchair. At the time, my daughter was just getting ready to go to college. The love of my life deserted me. And I was going through quite a change from running to sitting in a wheelchair. It took a lot of physical rehabilitation. And I remember in the beginning, the nurse would come in and she would place me somewhere, and that's pretty much where I stayed for the rest of the day. But as I got stronger physically and I was able to start maneuvering around in a wheelchair, I was dealing with this plethora of emotions and I didn't know what to do with it. So I wrote, which a lot of writers do. And I decided that I would take all of my writing, and I promised myself I would put it in a book as a keepsake for myself. So I wrote this book, and I divided it into 28 different emotions, and it ranges from anger to joy to courage. And then I decided I was going to put an index in the back of the book, so if somebody is dealing with, for instance, death, they could look it up and go to that poem that talks about death. I also, being a visual person, decided that I wanted to put some pictures for some of the poems to bring them out. And now I'd like to share a couple selections with you. The first one is from the section of the book called Addiction. And this particular addiction is about eating disorders. And it is from the perspective of the inside out. It's called Abyss. She doesn't want to die, yet she doesn't want to live. Enveloped in darkness, trapped in tormented abyss. She hates her body, feels trapped within her mind. She'll starve it away, purge it till it's gone, cut it from under her skin. She doesn't want to die, but she doesn't want to be labeled weirdo, sicko, crazy, selfish bitch. If she shuts the world out, she can hide from the scrutiny of doctors barking orders, parents passing blame, begging, pleading, praying, crying. It just increases her shame. Reflection in the mirror, haunting her critical mind. Ugliness revealed, she slips further. Girlfriends swapping clothes make her feel grotesque. Magazine pictures surround her, taunting, reinforcing her self-hatred. She doesn't want to die. She really is afraid. She can't reach out for help. She's frozen in despair. Silently, she moves through life, pretending to adjust, hiding her embarrassing little secret from a world she cannot trust. She doesn't want to die, but she can no longer live in a mind turned against her and a body holding her hostage. Thank you. The next selection is from Awakening. This has a picture. And I remember watching butterflies through the window, and I just wanted to be free physically to move again. But I also knew that going through this was going to set me free emotionally so that I could fly like a butterfly. And I wrote this, it's called A Name. Magnificent lady, in a prism of glory, you have lived my personal story. Knowing all you are and need to be, the smothering process will set you free. Inch by inch, you escape the danger of being crushed by an unconscious stranger. Waiting in isolation, wrapped up in yourself, longing to be taken from a dusty shell. Just when you feel it will never be, wings emerge and set you free. The next section is Courage, and this poem is very special to me. It's called The Mountain. And I needed something to keep me positive, going through all of my emotional upheaval. So I was reflecting on how good it felt when I was at the top of my game as an elite athlete. And I remembered it felt like I was on top of the mountain. And I wanted to go there again. And I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew that all I needed to do was focus on the peak of the mountain, and I wrote this poem. When you stood on top of the mountain, all that surrounds you is in you. Inhaling the sweet essence of purity, the body knows before the thought. Each muscle fiber reacts in perfect motion. Once you stood on the mountain, you want to go there again. No hard training is a discouragement. Time is not a factor. The view may not be the same as nature changes things, but rest assured, it's my mountain, and I can handle any view. Do not stand in my shadow. Go create your own. I have gotten to the mountain on self-motivation as only one can. I will stand on top of the mountain again, for that is where I left my soul. Thank you. And I have a section in the book that's called Death, and this book, this particular poem a friend of mine would commute to the city, and this has a picture. He would commute into the city, and he would see a homeless man every day, and one day he just stopped seeing him. And it prompted me to write this poem called Charlie. The child pulled his mother's hand. He wanted her to go slow. As they passed the familiar corner, he spoke out, "Where did Charlie go?" His mom glanced down with a puzzled look. "Son, we go this way every day." "We never knew a man named Charlie. Put your imagination away." But the boy insisted and abruptly stopped to explain who Charlie is. "He's the man who always smiles and waves. That box right there is his." "Why, there's nothing there than an old blanket, son. He must be long and gone. Those types of people move all around, and you shouldn't just wave to anyone." The boy knelt down right there on the street and quietly spoke a prayer. "God, Charlie's with you. I know he is. He'd never leave his home here." The mother knelt beside him, and much to her surprise, a tear filled her eyes. At that moment, she learned from her little son that everyone touches lives. This poem has a picture, and it's from the section called Family. Now, I know growing up, a lot of us see our parents as superheroes, and I know me particularly, I saw my mom as a mom. She didn't have a life before me, and she didn't have lovers and friends. So I was helping her clean out her closet one day, and I noticed a book on the shelf, and I said to her, "What's this?" And she goes, "Oh, nothing." So I took it down, and it was a photo album. And as she flipped through it, I watched her come alive, and I wrote this poem called She Had a Life. She was old and moody, always complaining of an ache or pain. If the sun was shining, you could be certain she'd make you feel like rain. Sitting on the sofa, I watched her closely as she fumbled with her books. Curious to know more about her, I asked if I could take a look. It was filled with smiles and men galore, a stunning girl dancing with soldiers from the war. She was stylishly dressed, beautiful smile. She had confessed, it's been a while since she opened her photo book to reflect upon her past. Wonderful memories to take a look that seemed to last and last. The Great Depression when the family struggles to survive, rations and going without then was how they stayed alive. But family was close and worked together, snuggling around the coal stove in winter weather. Shoes all atop, lined up to dry, being there for each other, no time to cry. She had a life, lovers, family and friends, marriage and childbirth, a love that doesn't end. And if you ask about her sacrifice, she'll turn to you and say, there are only solutions on any given day. She watched the world change, peace, war, joy, and strife. Decade to now, this woman had a life. The next section is growth, and even though growth is intangible, it's definitely not invisible. And this also has a picture. And for me, I know that the greatest growth that I've had is from the greatest pain. And it's called void. Void, empty, alone. All is as it should be. For to see a change, I must change. Tired, lost, hurting, changing. Then this section is loss, and this is about lost love. If I could step into your mind, I'd see my reflection. If you would slip inside my heart, you'd see yourself. When did you come into my life? How did you steal my soul away? The wall ripped down, left vulnerable and free. Your face etched on my mind, sweet taste lingers on my lips. Your gentle touch haunts my nights, and I reach out. You aren't there. This section is Parenthood, and this is a poem basically that I wrote about the birth of my daughter 25 years ago, and it's called Motherhood. Warmth on my stomach, contented she lay, God breathed life into her this day. Hello, stranger, traveler and me, together we begin our extraordinary journey. I looked down at perfect hands, though they didn't have to be. Holding them closely, she grasped delicately. Who is this life now outside of me, entrusting every need to her mommy? Am I good enough? Will I know what to do? All this love inside me, will it all come through? I glanced down to that precious face and know in my heart its amazing grace. I have a section in the book called Anger, and this is pretty self-explanatory. The poem is called Tuna Fish. You left me all alone, sitting in your favorite chair. You called me on the phone to say how much you care. I wished you best of luck with your business meeting. We ended our conversation, and I continued eating canned tuna fish. Hours crawled by. It reached 2 a.m. Finally, you called with a lie. Truck problems once again. You spent the night with her, snug inside her bed. You wined and dined while I ate tuna fish instead. And the last poem I'd like to leave you with is from a section called Surrender. And I vividly remember I was sitting in the wheelchair in front of the glass storm door, watching the world go by, and it was summertime. And I'm sitting there wondering why I'm alone. The love of my life abandoned me, and I was trying to make sense of it. And I guess in a way, it was my way of surrendering when I wrote this poem, and it's called Fireflies and Summer Skies. I sat and watched a haze vision of memories long gone, when summer nights warmed my skin and fireflies soared through the air. Now it looms beyond a barrier of glass, separating sight and memories from my touch, out of my grasp. Just beyond that thin barrier, those fireflies and summer skies call me to run away to better days, carefree times, when you could see me. We'd chase our dreams and soar beyond our fears, and you'd set eyes on me clearly, even in the dim glow of summerlit evenings. The sun can blaze above me now. You wouldn't see. I am invisible. The thin glass that separates us can only be shattered by the one who placed it there. Fireflies and hot summer nights, I can see them, but I watch them alone. Without your presence, I can no longer feel them. Perhaps it's time to turn around and see what stands behind me. Perhaps fireflies and summer skies are no longer worth watching alone. Thank you very much.